Hello everyone, I'm UR2D and today I'm here to talk about the Niagara Falls race that happened last Sunday, at least by the time that I'm making this video. And yeah, it was a very interesting race. I think the rain at the beginning it gave a lot of shakeups. Also a very crucial race for the championship, of course. We got the two big, I think, title fights. We got the constructors between FGR and the LSA, and then we also got the drivers title. That was quite close before this race, with 7 drivers, I think, in less than a win length. So they were basically less than 30 points, the top 7 in the standings, mostly due, I think, to Mine Frias and Hernandes missed races, and also the fact that the fact that they have their own bad races as well, and so they sort of made this championship very, very close. And yeah, now looking at the qualifying, we get to the end and we got Cado, Rosim, and Maya Frias, all those 3 drivers tying for pole position. Really big thing here. Is not every time that we see this happening. Then we got Graf also up there with Nandi. Then here, starting from P5, would be very crucial for him to have a good start, because he could easily screw up from that position. I can tell from experience. I think starting from P6 it is not easy on this track. Then you got Juruni Cordvident and Sobel started from P10. So FGR was certainly better in the qualifying, at least compared to the LSA. So yeah, then there's also a look at the standings at some point here. This could be interesting to watch. Yeah, there we go. These were the standings basically. Sobel, after his podium in Kyalami, he managed to be just 8 points behind Mayan Frias, and Hernandi was 13 points, I think, behind the Spaniard as well. So, it was still very, very close, as he managed to make some damage limitation in the last race. So yeah, then Quartavita win was also kind of close, but yeah, let's then go to also here you can see the constructors so close, just 2 points between these two teams. The FGR didn't manage to get the better of LSA in the last 2 races, and so yeah, very interesting here. It is actually very interesting how it started, with FGR clearly being like the favorite team. Then LSA sort of comes back out of nowhere, and then we see FGR just improving now lately, with Mayan Freeze being back as well and all of that. So yeah, let's then go to the starting grid then to see which tires it will start with, because here I need to repeat, and here we go. This was the tires that the drivers would start. You can see here Cado from pole position starting on the soft tires, Maya Freeze as well, see RJT and Gironi, and Sob also starting on the softs. And then we see quite a huge mix as well. We see Rosim Karaf on mediums, Corvid as well on the mediums, and then we see Hanari starting on the hard tires, which would be quite the risk, I would say. The wrists also here at the back, nothing to lose, starting on hards. Then Guletzi and Anti, these two, it's important to speak about, especially Guletzi, because that's going to be relevant later on. And then Andres starting on the inters, because as you can see right here at the top, it was wet, but not enough wet, like it would be just 1 or 2 laps like this. And so most of the drivers would start on the dries. But it's interesting, we didn't saw more drivers actually going for a gamble here, because it was cloudy, so the rain could have appeared like during these first few laps, but a lot of drivers just didn't want to risk it. So yeah, so we get to the race start here, and immediately Journey stalls a bit, but one driver you're gonna see that didn't start at all was Sobol. And it's already something very huge that happens in this race. Sobol was basically out, as it seems like his game just crashed at the start, which was weird. I can't simply explain why it happened. So Sobo is out. This is huge for his title chances because he was in second place coming to this race, just 8 points behind, and now he was out of the race. So he could have lost a lot of points. If Minor Freeze would win, that would be 30 points. So it will be 38 points behind with just 2 rounds to go. So Sobo was, I think we can say he is out of the title because of this, because of something so stupid, I would say. And then also for the constructors, of course, FCR and LSA battling each other now with just one driver, because Sobo would be getting 0 points by being the last driver here. So big thing that happened here. So let's look at the start again. Kado conveniently starting on inside, but then he quickly goes for his main line. Now he doesn't have that ping advantage, of course. As we see that my freeze up to second, now up into the lead as Kado makes a little mistake here on that corner. It is very easy to get on inside there. Then we see some big battle here. Hernandez still holding on in P6, so he already lost one position, but he goes for the inside of Rosim. Seems to have pushed him a bit as the drivers have to deal with this light rain, or the light wet, let's say. Andres was steadily climbing up a lot of positions, but he would then very soon have to pit, but he will actually stay out. As then we see here, I think Hernandez, this is where he starts to get completely screwed up. As you can see, he goes a bit to the outside, gets a little bit pushed, and then Skywalk takes back the lead, but then Hernandez, I think it's on this wall, gets massively crushed there with Clash as well, and now he was down to P16 or P15, but he would eventually be down to P16 at some point, so because he have to battle Kader, which is not ideal. And yeah, then you can see here Andres still in P10, still doing pretty well on those inters. And then we see Kader Mine Freeze, a massive group here at the front, just trying to battle for those height positions. Granny gets pushed on the outside. That Kado's is still keeping himself in the lead. Now Charge would take it up there on the final corner. And we see Kraf doing a good job here, same with Corvid as they were on the medium, so they would been doing great to just stay on with the drivers who were on the softs. And then Hernandez just completely down in the order here, up to P15. I think he would then recover up to P14. And then yeah, this was a big thing here. I think we start to see this group forming. Actually, let's try to see where this group formed, because yeah, here they were still a big group. Here you can see Corvid and Rosim and Gironi in the big battle with side by side. I think it might be here. Yeah, it's when Rosim gets pushed on inside on the final corner. Now we got a group of 5 drivers. Charge AT, Kado, Kraft, Marine Freeze and Corvid, and Rosim would be a little bit behind. But on the mediums, because yeah, let's not forget that being on the mediums would end up having quite a huge impact on the race later on, or quite soon in the races. We see that Marine Freeze trying to take second place. Charge AT very close to run away, but luckily here Kado managed to get back on that slipstream range. As you can see here, just battling a lot actually. The drivers were not being that patient. Same thing here, the midfield, we see Glatzy battling his teammate, and also Yoha, who I think did not race in some race, so he was actually doing his debut today, on that day I mean. See also Figueroa, I think was the same thing. Yeah, then we see Kraft and Corvid battling each other. Charge team maybe out, but I mean there's not much to talk about here. They were certainly battling, but it's essentially the same. They're all in the same group, so does it matter much what happens there, unless there would be a huge breakaway, which wasn't exactly the case. Actually, Corvid seems to have lost the slipstream ahead. I don't know how. Would like to see it, if it would be possible. How does he lost that? Oh, okay, that massive. Yeah, it makes a little bit of a massive dive bomb, kind of gets deep into the grass. And yeah, let's skip things a little bit. Hernandez was up to P14, so let's shunt things a little. We start to see some drivers pitting. Grandi would be the first of the drivers starting on the dry pitting. So basically the first apart from Andres who pitted earlier to take out those inters. And that my freeze will be taking the lead. We see more drivers pitting, Charge AT, and Kado will be pitting, taking out those softs after 8 laps. So interesting to see that, because I think the softs would last a little bit less, at least one lap less, let's say, with the previous generation of cars. So we can see the grip, the higher grip, having some effects on how long the tires would last. That my freeze goes for a pit stop, then Graf will be the one leading the way. And with this you can see how Hernandi starts climbing up positions a lot, mostly just because of the drivers just pitting. So yeah, which is something you can expect. But yeah, Hernandi was massively, I think, screwed up because of the starting on the hards. You know, you might say, oh, it's a dive bomb because someone dive bombed me. Yeah, well, of course they did. They want to pass the driver on the hard tires. That's just the way it is. So you can see here is up to P8. Now would climb even further now up to P6. But then you can see here Figueroa on the hards, Journey making the undercut on him. But then here, this will be the big thing. Light rain appearing, Carvey would be the leader, essentially the leader of the race if that rain would stay. And then you can see here also Glatz incredibly up into third place here with Grozim, as they both go into the pits. Of course, everyone on the old tires went into the pits, while those on the new tires just decided to stay out, because with light rain it can disappear, and also they have new tires that can still sort of hold on just for one lap at least. But then you can see the saw right here, it's cloudy announcement, so this could massively screw up everyone who ended up pitting. At least that was what everyone who pitted was thinking. And I'm guessing that Randy was the only driver who pitted, who had new tires but pitted for the wets, because he was one of the first drivers to pit actually. So then you can see here with all of this, Corville would be on the inters. Now he had the pace advantage, he easily gets past Marin Frias. Marin Frias was still out. She still decided not pit, of course, because yeah, it was supposed to be dry very soon. You can see also Gletzi here up into third place, but Hernani would be one of the biggest winners supposedly, but though he would be back at the back because he was only now P9, so not that ideal. But then the rain comes back again, so everyone who had to stay out all this entire time, they would be massively undercutted, because you know, those running on the Inter were getting time during this entire time, and some other drivers got screwed up here. Let's actually see it again, because we see it was Corvid leading the way, Manfred in second place, then Corvid goes into the pits, because you would expect the rain to end, but no it didn't, it just comes back. So Corvid, lucky for him, he still had time to pick the wets, but if he didn't, that would be yet another extra pit stop they would have to make, and I think it will be even further screwed up. But yeah, you can see full rain announcement. Mayan Frias would be leading, but not for long. And so the driver that would be leading the way, it would be none other than Guetzi here, taking the lead of the race in a very weird way. As we see Kado now going to the pits, almost dragging Yoga with him. But then we see here Snuddy up into second place out of nowhere. So this was a huge thing. Also Yoga up into third place. So big shake up on the grid. Eurist also in P6. Eurist started in P17. So yeah, it was a huge shake up here. As we see then Guetzi just leading the way now. You'd have a 2.5 second lead with Nandi now chasing him off, obviously being much faster. So eventually this wouldn't last for long. You might know, this is why pace matters, because if Glatzi had Hernandez pace, it would have been an easy win, at least as it looked right now. But still, it was not over for the FGR drivers, because they have the wet now, they have fresher wet tires, so they would be actually gaining time during this entire thing. Just to say that they lost time with the pits, but now they will be getting that back. As you can see, as the full rain comes back, and this would be also another big thing, because later on, if this rain would stay, it would make things a little bit complicated for those who were on heaters this entire time. You can see here, Uris will be certainly one of the victims, Andres as well, and basically the top three, with all of the other drivers, Corvid, Manfreeze, and Rosim essentially coming back, Graf as well. All of these drivers will be making their way up with the drivers who were in the top three eventually losing time. And then obviously Gletzi being the slowest driver of the drivers on the Inters probably, or maybe he will be losing time to Hernandi. And then yeah, I can see here Hernandi much closer now, just 1 second behind, maybe not even that. He got rid of Joha, and so yeah, Joha was falling behind, Corby was catching up to him, my Fries was also be on her way into the front as well. So this was a very interesting thing. We got drivers who lost time now trying to get it back with better tires. And yeah, this was an interesting part of the race because it felt like a bit of reverse grid, but with the front drivers who starting at the front having a bit of a head start, let's say. But now we could see eventually Hernandi managed to catch to Gletzi, but Gletzi would not heal for Hernandi. He would not let him pass. He would actually defend the lead of the race because it's not every time you get the lead in UL race. So Gletzi here was just fighting for his pride, as then Corby makes his move on Joha. And now he was up into third place. Eventually Marion Fries will be next. Now here Hernandi was on a very hard task here, trying to find a way past the Swissman, was defending for his life, I hear, because yeah, Hernandi really needed to get past him because he would be losing time, even more time than the time he was losing against the FGR drivers. So yeah, this will be a huge part of the race here, as now we would still have more light terrain, so this was taking quite long, and sooner or later the drivers have to think, if those on heaters will have to think whether they should pit again or not. As you can see here, Hernandi is trying his best to make a move on Gletzi. He gets the inside line, but Gletzi still managed to sort of defend on the outside. I think here and there he goes, just defending, as Hernandi will still lose a lot more time now, just because this is a track where it's just hard to overtake. That's why a lot of chaos happens. Then this thing here, this weird lag happens, and so Hernandi gets pushed into the grass, and now Corby would be much closer. Corby was essentially screwed up by pitting when he thought it would be dry, but then that full rain came in. But now he has been catching up to the front. He was up to third place. No big issues there. Yeah, let's see if we can skip things a little bit. As Gletzi was still in the lead of the race, then we see another full rain. So this rain was just taking quite long to disappear. So here, Hernandi and Gletzi finally make that decision of pitting for fresh new tires, and now they will be faster. But the big question will be if them being faster will be enough, if they could make it up for that extra pit stop they were making right now, as they would also have a lot of traffic, and hopefully for them the rain will not stay for long. As you can see here, Gletzi makes his mistake, and now Hernandi finally managed to get past him, but now the traffic could still decide a lot of things here, so the job was not totally done, as they would have to get past both the RMC drivers. But yeah, now Hernandi would have the pace advantage, but Gletzi takes back the position, but Hernandi managed to make a huge switch back there as Cadel goes into the pits. I don't know why it was skip following Cadel there. I think this was the story at the time, like Hernandi and Gletzi tried to make their way up again. Charge AT was on a similar situation with Cadel. So yeah, and I think Grundy did the same. So there were a few drivers who pitted during this time, during the rain, to have fresh tires and make the time again that they lost with that pit. But yeah, now with this we'll have the FGR leading the way. Marion Fries being faster than Corby, she was getting closer to him, because she pitted actually 1 lap later as well, so she had better tires, and with those wets being completely done, it would make a huge difference. So yeah. Marion Fries once again tries to make a move on the Australian. She goes around the outside. Corby a bit defensive there, but Marion Fries tries to take the lead, but didn't quite manage to do it on those corners, I think. So yeah, Gletzi is still ahead of Hernandi, Not sure what happened there to Hannity, but he certainly lost a lot of time with all of this. As you can see, the distance just too big. And yeah, maybe either Gironi or Tuesi might have something to do with it, or maybe a massive mistake from Hernandi. But yeah, finally he managed here to make a move on Gironi as he makes a mistake. So now Hernandi just trying to make his job right now. He had to catch back to Gletzi, pass him and hope that he would finally slipstream, as Maya Frias was just trying to take the lead, and I think she finally managed to do it. Actually, I want to see where were the FGRs battling. They seem to have been battling for quite a while, like the entire lap. But since we have no recording of that battle, maybe we might have on Corvid's POV, but I don't think he has posted that yet. So yeah, Maya Frias takes then the lead of the race. And in here, Hernandez just tried to get back to Gletzi on this race. So the rain is having a huge effect right now. With the beginning, your decision also having huge consequences. If you take the softs, it would be faster, but you would very likely be screwed up by the rain. And the same could happen with the mediums, but on the hards, you would benefit from the rain. And yeah, Hernandez certainly benefited, but he lost a lot at the beginning. So if he didn't lose all of that, if he wasn't down to P16, he could maybe be on a good situation for winning the race. So yeah, you can see here Corvin and Marion now still battling for that lead of the race. It was certainly hard, but I think here we just saw Hernandez just finally on inside line here, finally just making that move on Gletzi, really nicely done, I must say. Now only Kraft and Rosin standing ahead of the FCRs, standing between them, himself and the FCRs. So yeah, you can see here the difference in grip, because Hernandez had completely fresh tires. He was getting massively here, so it was really important to just make those moves, because the more he would stay behind, the more time he would lose. And here you can see, I think this is when Gletzi gets massively pushed by Hernandez. No, he was still, seems, looking at the deltas, he was still behind him. But yeah, some drivers were now pitting. You can see Grandi pitting quite early for dries. And here eventually it looks like Mario Frias managed to get rid of Corvi, but we couldn't see how that happened, sadly. And then you can see here Graf I think has pitted already for dry tires. Hernandez could still wait a little bit more compared to the others, because yeah, the others have very old wet tires. They could not do any single distance, any single corner on the dries with dry conditions. On those very wet tires, they will just lose massively. But yeah, then everyone pits, and now things will be much simpler now. Only 20 laps to go after this, so there are certain things you could do. I think you could go for softs and then hards, so you could go for hards and then softs, or then pick the mediums here, or also the softs and mediums. That would work as well. And that's exactly what Hernandez does. As yeah, he was up to third place. Now he would take the softs, Corvi would be on the mediums, and Mario Frias will be on the hard tires. So yeah, I think Mario Frias' strategy doesn't make sense. Although it would be a bit problematic, because she would still have to make an overtake in the end. If what Hernandez was doing would work well, now he wouldn't have the pace advantage. He would desperately need to get past Corvid here, and there he goes on the inside line. He actually managed to make a good job here to be very fast to pass the Australian, because Corvid could have been a good and a very useful shield for Mario Frias, but he just didn't manage to do that, because yeah, Corvid had a huge ping here, and with a track like this, it could have been really tough for Hernandez to pass. But somehow he managed to pass him much easier than what he managed to pass Gletzi, for example. So this was a crucial moment. Now he could just concentrate on catching up to Mario Frias. That will be very essential now. As we saw here, a huge lag from Kraft. You can see he goes a bit to the inside, and then he comes back later on. Corvid loses a lot of time actually. He was quite far behind. He was up in the second place, suddenly was down 3 positions. So yeah, he lost a lot here. I think this is what he meant, that he could have maybe got the win, but that just didn't allow him. So yeah, Corby losing a lot here. Would have now Chargety and Gletzy as well. See here, Kraft and Razim battling each other. Razim starting on a good race. The rain did help him a lot as well. So yeah, then Hernandez just now making his best to catch up to my frees here. He would simply need to. This would be very essential right now, but looking at the strategies, what Hernandez would have to do now would be to pit for the mediums with 11 laps to go and would have an undercut. That would be basically it, and then my freeze would have other would get undercutted basically, but then she would have the pace advantage for the final stint. So I think Nante's strategy wasn't totally stupid, because it is a track that is supposedly hard to overtake. But here you can see here, he tries to go for the move on my freeze, he goes for the inside line, you know, he takes up the lead of the race, but then I think he doesn't make a mistake. No, he managed to take the lead of the race. This was amazing for him. Good moves once again, quite aggressive but fair, I would say. But then he makes this mistake here, which I think it is very easy to make. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he made a mistake there. My freeze has a goal now around the outside, and then we see this huge crash here. I don't know exactly what happened. Seems to be kind of like rocket there, but this would allow actually my freeze to take the lead of the race, with now Kraft and Razim being very close to them. Drivers who could play a part here when Hernandez would pit. And so yeah, you can see here Razim and Kraft now on the mediums. And yeah, actually I wonder if it wouldn't be better for Hernandez to take the mediums. It would certainly be harder to get past Corvid. That would be an issue for sure. But if he could do that, if he was confident on his pace, and that he could do that on Corvid, if he could then catch up to my freeze, that would be amazing for him, because then he could pit for softs with 9 laps to go, and I think he would have a much better defensive against my freeze. Because right here looks like Hernandez would just be able to catch up my freeze, and the best he could do now would be just to stay with her till the end of his stint. It's here just outside of it. He's just really on the outside, but just barely managed to keep it, because he would have the straight line speed advantage because he was on softs. And yeah, this kind of helping the softs a lot when it comes to these new cars, because even on much older tires he will still be able to have some advantage on the straight line. And with the cars having more acceleration, I think they just get up to full speed much longer now, which might just help softs during when they're just old. But yeah, here Hernandez makes his pit into the mediums. My freeze will be racing now on old hard, so she would be certainly undercutted. She could have reacted and maybe cover him to not let him run away, or what she can do now is to extend the hards just a little bit more and prepare herself for the final battle. Have the confidence that she can catch up to Hernandez very soon, quite soon in the last stint. And yeah, that would be the big question, if Hernandez would be able to hold up. This will be a very similar situation to what happened in Maralge, where Hernandez I think pits for hards or mediums as well, and Noms pits for softs. Later on he actually talked about it, pitting a bit later without being too late as well, just be able to catch up to Hernandez as soon as possible and have superior tires until the end. And yeah, here you can see Hernandez now ahead of Kletz in Charge AT. They'll be just streaming. I think Charge still have to pit one more time, I think. But yeah, Kletz is still with an amazing race. But now it didn't make sense to battle him. Actually, I might say, like at the beginning when first Hernandez catch up to him for the lead, I think it did make sense for him to defend. But then later on, when they both made that pit for fresh wet tires, I think he should have just let Hernandez get past him, because they lost a lot of time now. Glassie could have been fighting for maybe a top 5 right now, because Because yeah, now he's obviously in third, but everyone else will be catching up to him. He would actually also you have to pit. Never mind. Yeah, you would have to pit again. So, but yeah, Maya Freeze makes a pit stop with 8 laps to go. So yeah, not that big of a distance that she had to catch up to Hernandez. So this shows that with her being on the softs, he would easily catch up to Hernandez. There was no way that Hernandez would be able to just keep the gap until the end. So he would eventually get caught up. And I think would have a huge disadvantage because I think the thing with these cars is that the fact that they have more acceleration, more grip, it means that the difference between the grip and acceleration with each of the tire compounds is bigger. Because I've learned that it is a multiplier that decides how much grip you have on the softs, mediums and hards. And so yeah, it is. So I think this just helped Marion Freeze massively. You can also see how fast Nutty was. Like the huge advantage that he had when on the previous stint when he was on the softs himself. So here you can see Marion Freeze catching up to Hernandez. Now she goes for the overtake here. She goes for the inside line, but Hernandez still managed to defend. But then Marion Freeze just managed to come back there. It was actually a very weird move there. That's yeah, was a bit controversial, but either way, then here Hernandez loses the slipstream. He could have still have a chance if he could maybe extend this as long as possible, but I don't know what happened. He makes a massive mistake on that corner, which is actually very easy to make, not gonna lie. That was the exact same spot where Danny Mater lost the slipstream against me back in season 9. So my Freeze takes the lead now. There's nothing that Hernandez can do here to take the win. This will be actually huge for the championship. It's only one position up, but we're talking about 5 points that she would gain on Hernandez. Although Hernandez had the fastest lap, so that was only 4 points. But these 4 points can make a huge difference because we are talking about only 2 rounds to go after this race. So Hernandez would be now 17 points behind my Freeze with 2 rounds to go. It is not a huge. It is not an easy gap to gain in just 2 rounds. Believe me, it is really hard to gain those points. Like if Maya Freeze needs to stay consistent, be able to score 2 podiums, which I think she can. And I think we will basically be it. Hernandez will be forced to win 2 races, which I think it's hard to see Hernandez winning races, not gonna lie. He is certainly one of the fastest drivers on the grid, but he just struggles to get the win. Usually, even when he's perfectly capable of doing that. I feel like Hernandez is really cursed. But here you can see how Hernandez can do nothing about the win now. It is basically my Freeze race. Well, then the others were just battling here for a podium. We got Rosim, Kraft, and Corvid. Tragedy also getting himself close right now, so this will be actually a good battle to watch until the end. Just 2 laps to go. Corvid tries to move up the inside line, now going side by side, but there's not much you can do here now. Graph, you can see how Sobel's ghost there will have an effect as well, because you would see the other drivers hitting them for the beats, and that could influence the battles a little. And then you can see here, Kraft goes for his move around the outside, Rosim pushes him, and Corvid takes the inside line. And this is usually how you make double overtakes. It's usually when someone tries to overtake someone else, and then the driver on the inside goes too deep, pushing the other driver too deep as well, and Corvid makes a double overtake, but he loses here with this classic mistake on the inside line, which is also a very easy mistake to do. So Rosim has a chance to pass him on the outside here. Then we see Kraft as well with trying to make the move. But yeah, then you can see here, it looks like Rosim gets pushed a little, yeah, on that corner. But yeah, then you can see here, my Freeze takes the win on the American Grand Prix. Then Hernandez would take 2nd place. Then Corvid will be 3rd place, very close battle with Kraft and Rosim. So yet another double podium for FGR. I think the 2nd of the season after their 1-2. May have been actually the 3rd. I'm pretty sure they took a 1-2 at some point, didn't they? was when they took the one to their first double podium of the season as well, back in round number 2 in Germany. So yeah, either way, this was an amazing race for Maya Freeze. Of course, she takes the lead of the championship. I mean, she extends the lead. Sabo was out of the fight because of what happened to him at the start, and Hannity now lost 4 points. It just looks pretty hard right now with Maya Freeze winning. This was amazing. I think probably the most crucial win of her entire career right now. A win that can make things much easier for the championship, also for FGR to finally take their third constructors title after season 8, because yeah, LSA without Sabo would lose massive points to them as well. So yeah, this was a big thing for the title, probably one of the most crucial races we could have seen. Now with 2 rounds to go, and then he will need to make his 2 best ever races. I think it is not impossible, but he's certainly gonna have to beat Maya Freeze and hope that she massively screws up at least in one of the races. But yeah, it is gonna be hard to see Maya Freeze losing the title. And yeah, that's it. This was the video. This was my analysis. I hope you guys like about it. I certainly like talking about the history of this race and talking about the strategies a little bit. So what was exactly going on in the race? Because sometimes it is actually hard to understand it live, and once you make the breakdown of things, it becomes much clearer what the story was and how the people get where they got into. So yeah, I guess I could make a bit of a summary of what happened. I think speaking about Hernandy's race would be easier. So Hernandy starts on the hards, falls down to P16, then he managed to recover up to P14, but then with everyone pitting, he gets up to P5, and then that's when the rain comes in, the light rain, where he pits for inters. At the beginning looked like it would be a bad idea because soon the clouds would come back, so rain would be over, so everyone who had new tires and stood out for that light rain would then get massively screwed up when the full rain would then appear again. So Hernandy got himself up into second place, because when it was about to get dry, some drivers pitted. That was like Corvid, Rosimans, all of that stuff, with Gletzi leading the way. So Hernandy had to catch up to Gletzi. He managed to do it, but couldn't pass him. And then Maya Freeze and Corvid, who has the wets, much fresher wets, eventually would catch up to him as well. So him and Gletzi would have to make a decision to pit again, so they would follow some positions, and then they would have to come back as well. And eventually Hernandy would find himself up into third place, just behind the FGRs. He will then take the softs to pass Corvid very easily and catch up to Maya Freeze as well. But then he pits for mediums, while Maya Freeze goes for the softs, so she had the hards in the penultimate stint, and then Maya Freeze would easily catch back to him and take the win of the race. And that was it. This was the race basically, and yeah, this was the video. Once again, I hope you guys like it, and see you next time. I should also make there's a lot of videos I would like to make, also a lot of races that would be cool to analyze. There's obviously Kyle Lambie speaking about how the Corvid won that race. Also, how did Hernandy broke his third win curse in Sofia. And yeah, that's it. And hope you guys like this video, and see you next time.